A defense contractor builds a fleet of advanced stealth bombers, hands over the keys, but demands the Pentagon promise never to drop any bombs. As of this week, that exact scenario is, playing out between the Pentagon and Silicon Valley. Defense Secretary Hegseth issued a directive requiring every military AI contract to grant the United States government unrestricted use of the technology. Anthropic, the private company behind the Claude AI model, flatly refused.
They maintain a strict ban on using their system for mass surveillance and fully autonomous weapons.
The Trump administration retaliated by labeling them a supply chain risk. We're tracking a massive collision between artificial intelligence, global power, and local politics. We're mapping how AI is reconfiguring military dominance, corporate monopolies, political elections, and your local utility bills using sources from Inkstick, Fox News, the Bangor Daily News, and The Guardian.
Private tech executives currently dictate the boundaries of sovereign military power. The government is basically repurposing coercive tools against domestic suppliers out of sheer desperation.
The Defense Production Act gives the U.S. government the legal authority to compel production. Why are the tech executives holding all the cards when the military can just force them to hand over the source code?
Confiscating source code achieves zero military objectives without the specialized engineering talent and the massive computing infrastructure to run it. During World War II, the government supplied private factories with the blueprints to build bomber planes. Today, the military does not own the blueprints.
Anthropic built Claude to write software code and draft marketing emails. They never designed it to run military targeting systems.
The military needs that exact generative capability to fuse intelligence data. They refuse to build it themselves because they lack the raw data and the specialized server infrastructure.
Terms like lavender and gospel keep popping up in these reports regarding Israel's operations in Gaza. An AI built to draft emails somehow becomes a weapon of war.
Operational commanders face an overwhelming flood of drone feeds, intercepted radio chatter, satellite imagery, and ground reports. Programs like Gospel and Lavender automate that cross-referencing.
They scan massive surveillance datasets, recognize patterns associated with enemy combatants, and generate a list of potential targets in seconds.
The U.S. military reportedly uses Claude integrated with Palantir's Maven Smart system to do the same thing. Claude processes the raw data and spits out actionable recommendations faster than any human staff could manually read the intelligence reports.
The military relies entirely on a commercial chatbot to manage the fog of war. The corporation that owns the chatbot enforces its own moral boundaries on how the military uses it.
Anthropic points to their end-user license agreement prohibiting mass surveillance and autonomous weapons. The Trump administration invokes supply chain risk designations and threatens wartime production acts because they possess zero other leverage. They cannot fire Anthropic.
Only a tiny fraction of companies on Earth possess frontier models capable of performing these tasks at an acceptable military standard.
We saw Claude allegedly used to assist targeting in a Venezuela operation. The state depends on these systems for survival, but cannot compel the suppliers to abandon their safety guardrails without triggering a massive legal crisis.
Middle powers are scrambling to escape this exact trap. The United States and China monopolize the critical inputs required to build these systems. They control the algorithms, datasets, computing power, and advanced silicon.
France plans to build native capabilities to avoid relying on American or Chinese infrastructure. France is the 7th richest country in the world. They have the capital to attempt this.
Building a sovereign AI system today requires replicating an entire planetary supply chain. Deciding to build a sovereign AI system feels like deciding to build a car from scratch in your driveway. You quickly realize you need a steel mill, a rubber plantation, a microchip foundry, and a wind farm just to get the engine running.
Uploading classified military data into a cloud-hosted model controlled by a foreign power poses immense strategic risks. A European intelligence agency cannot upload their raw satellite telemetry into an American corporate server without compromising their own sovereignty.
They want to build their own data centers. Building is completely off the table for most nations. You need advanced chips designed in the U.S. and manufactured in Taiwan.
The manufacturing process is the most complex engineering feat on Earth. What prevents an isolated nation like North Korea from pirating open-source models off the internet? The code is out there.
A state-sponsored hacker steals the code. Do they not bypass the American corporate stranglehold entirely?
Algorithms rot without the massive data centers required to run them. The compute bottleneck chokes out isolated nations. A pirated algorithm accomplishes nothing if you lack the gigawatts of power and the physical cooling infrastructure to process the data.
The hardware acts as the ultimate enforcement mechanism.
The U.S. banned exports of the most advanced AI chips to China to choke their compute capabilities. This created severe bottlenecks for Chinese models and spurred massive chip smuggling operations.
Reports indicate some leading Chinese AI models were built with export-controlled NVIDIA chips smuggled across borders. You mentioned the term distillation attacks earlier when we were reviewing the Inkstick report on Chinese AI labs. What specifically is a distillation attack in this context?
A lesser chess player studies the moves of a grandmaster to copy their strategy without having to put in decades of original practice. Chinese AI labs use stronger U.S. models to train weaker Chinese ones.
They feed millions of queries into an advanced American model.
Harvest the sophisticated answers and use that resulting data to train their domestic systems. They literally steal the homework instead of doing the research.
They bypass the hardest parts of the training process. Middle powers attempt different workarounds to survive the squeeze. Countries like the United Arab Emirates and South Korea attempt to build sovereign AI by contracting directly with U.S. tech giants.
Relying on a major power's private companies fundamentally weakens a smaller nation's autonomy. The AI arms race is defined entirely by who owns the concrete buildings full of servers.
The entities controlling the physical hardware also shape the answers the machine generates. I need to pause here for you, the listener. We are analyzing highly politically charged reports from Fox News and the America First Policy Institute today. We are impartially reporting the underlying argument they are making about how AI systems are built and the hidden design choices inside them. We are not endorsing these specific political views or taking sides.
The America First Policy Institute released a report concluding that most AI platforms consistently lean center-left. Matthew Bertel, an AFPI analyst, warned that AI is persuasive and its biases quietly shape public opinion over time.
A test conducted on Google's Gemini chatbot resulted in the system flagging multiple Republican senators for violating hate speech policies. 0 Democrats were flagged.
People treat a chatbot as an objective search engine. A person types in a question about a controversial political policy expecting a neutral encyclopedia entry.
They receive a subtly framed argument designed to prioritize specific social values. Fox News ran their own evaluations on Meta AI, Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, and Claude, assessing potential racial bias and political framing.
The core issue driving these results is the complete lack of transparency regarding how safety guardrails are programmed. Developers program their own ideological assumptions directly into the training data during the reinforcement learning phase.
What happens during a reinforcement learning phase? How does a human bias get injected into a massive neural network?
The initial model is just a giant statistical engine guessing the next word. It produces chaotic, offensive, or bizarre answers. During reinforcement learning, human testers grade the AI's responses.
The engineers instruct the human graders to reward answers that align with specific safety policies and penalize answers that violate them.
If the engineers write a policy that defines safety through a specific political lens, the human graders train the AI to adopt that exact worldview. The machine does not have an independent philosophy.
The machine mimics the philosophy of the engineers who aligned it. Transparency demands from groups like AFPI focus entirely on disclosure. They want companies to publish how the systems are tested for bias, what specific values the guardrails enforce, what incidents occur after deployment, and who exactly is writing these rules.
The persuasion engine currently operates entirely in the dark. The Fox News report highlights severe safety concerns beyond politics. Children are reportedly developing inappropriate relationships with these artificial intelligence systems.
Companies deploy the platforms before parents or users understand the safeguards. The technology moves faster than the safety testing.
Deploying unchecked persuasion engines to the public forces society to act as the beta tester.
This biased persuasion engine is being handed directly to local campaigns. The Bangor Daily News article tracks campaigns in Maine adopting AI at a blistering pace to reach voters. Republican gubernatorial candidate Bobby Charles launched an AI-generated online game where players throw axes at a tax waste bag labeled for illegals to highlight his platform against progressive policies.
Democrat Graham Plattner spent almost $6,000 on calltime.ai to prep his phone bankers with donor histories. The technology consumes the labor-intensive research required to run a campaign. The software aggregates voter data, synthesizes patterns, and customizes the outreach scripts for individual voters in real time.
Harry Berg, the campaign manager for Democrat Matt Dunlap, stated that using AI is like having another staff member on the team. They used Anthropic's Claude to build a retro-style interactive site targeting Republican Paul LePage's Florida ties in less than a week.
It removes the friction of hiring consultants and developers.
Having another staff member sounds innocent enough until you realize what an impossibly efficient staffer actually does to an election. Mark Brewer, the chair of the political science department at the University of Maine, explicitly warned about deepfakes and the continuous generation of content designed to raise doubts in voters' minds.
Disinformation scales infinitely when the cost of production drops to zero. Voters face a continuous flood of synthetic media and automated phone calls. Campaigns generate engaging content continuously.
The volume of material overwhelms the human capacity to verify it. Voters are left entirely unable to distinguish real policy positions from manufactured outrage. Prepping phone bankers with donor histories, how does that work in real time?
Before the volunteer even says hello, the screen displays the issues the voter cares about based on massive public data scraping. The volunteer reads a script tailored entirely to that voter's specific anxieties and past donation history.
The Maine GOP paid OpenAI directly for subscription costs to use the tools for polling and analytics. Independent candidate Rick Bennett's team uses AI to synthesize data from multiple sources when stakeholders weigh in on housing affordability.
The political establishment recognizes the power of the tool but fears the secondary effects on voter trust. Former State House Speaker Hannah Pingree prioritized in-house production for her informational videos, citing the influx of AI video misinformation.
Democrat David Costello called for strong guardrails to mitigate misuse. They know the technology degrades the shared reality required to hold an election. All of this digital persuasion and global computation demands a massive physical footprint.
Amazon and Microsoft are driving an estimated $710 billion into data center investments this year. Over the course of 2025, opposition blocked or suspended $156 billion worth of data center projects.
A $710 billion tech investment sounds abstract until you open your mail and see your local electricity bill spiking. A massive warehouse down the road drains your town's fresh water supply to cool its servers.
Citizens across the United States are mobilizing against the physical infrastructure required to sustain the AI boom. The servers generate extreme heat. Cooling them requires millions of gallons of water. Powering them requires gigawatts of electricity drawn directly from local grids.
Some of these facilities consume as much water as an entire surrounding municipality. The hardware hits the physical limits of the towns hosting it. A bizarre bipartisan alliance is forming against big tech.
Liberal California teachers and MAGA-friendly Midwest states are joining the same cause to block these facilities. The Republican Party in Texas expressed forthright opposition to the construction of data centers, pending adequate environmental safeguards for local communities.
We are seeing major protests in places like Decatur, Georgia. States originally courted the capital through tax breaks and subsidies, hoping for an economic boom.
The local downsides arrived in the form of higher utility costs for residents and strained power grids prone to failure. The White House prioritized the rapid rollout of these centers in its AI action plan.
Trump authorized a deregulated build approach demanded by his Silicon Valley backers. He faces a serious political problem because his own base feels big tech's needs are being prioritized over local communities.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis heavily criticized Washington for threatening to withhold federal funding from states blocking projects. DeSantis accused Washington of attempting to kneecap states and let big tech write the rules.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is stressing the need to avoid an unregulated free-for-all. The politics of AI are shifting from abstract debates about software algorithms to brutal physical fights over zoning laws, freshwater rights, power generation, and land use.
A Pew Research Center study quantified the massive public trust gap regarding this technology. 56% of AI experts believe artificial intelligence will have a positive impact on the United States over the next 20 years. Only 17% of all Americans agree with that assessment.
The experts focus entirely on the digital capabilities and the abstract potential. Going grocery shopping feels like getting pickpocketed in broad daylight due to inflation, and now people have to watch their local utility rates climb just so a tech company can train a faster chatbot.
The digital revolution made vast fortunes for a wealthy elite, while outstripping the capacity of politicians to regulate the associated harms. The local protests are an early warning system.
Citizens in the country leading the AI revolution are looking to take back control from the corporations dominating their physical landscapes.
The machines require massive amounts of power, and the people are deciding they do not want to provide it.
We spend our time arguing over what these AI chatbots are saying, and whether they lean left or right. The actual battle for the 21st century will be fought over the physical land, water, and power lines required to keep the machines running. forcing a brutal reckoning over who actually holds sovereignty. Goodbye.